Hello, everyone. I welcome you on behalf of Next Step Integral to this chat with Brooke McNamara, who joined our faculty early last year. And I'm just really delighted to be spending a little time with her here to really reflect back on the spring course that we ran with her and to see if it might entice you to join us for the full course that is starting next Monday. I often find these chats are just a beautiful way for anyone considering joining to get to know her as a person, because really any course has so much to do with the person who is holding the container, who breathed life into a course, and who has filled the course with the content. So there's so much about the being behind the doing and the offering. And so we'll just do a little reflection to what we experienced, because last time we did a video, we'd never run the course. It was really the first ever time. And I feel like now both you, Brooke, and I have this wonderful experience to reflect on and to share about. But if any of you want to get sort of an overarching sense of other aspects of the course that we discussed last time, I'd like to point you to that other video that we did in the spring, because it's lovely and I really enjoyed the space we held together there. So before we start, I'm going to just read you a little bit of her bio, so you can get to know her through that lens. She is the author of a poetry book. It's called Feed Your Vow. It's beautiful. I have it next to my bedside now for years. It was published in 2015, and I love to go read a poem there before I go to bed at night or when I wake up in the morning. She's been teaching creative writing and dance, yoga, and meditation for over a decade. Her training is in dance and English, and then also a lot in somatic studies and yoga at different universities. She's now on the faculty at Naropa University, and she's been teaching there for the past 6 years. Then she co-directs with Lauren Beale of Eunice Embodiment, and it's an organization where they offer cutting-edge dance theater performances and movement education and creative practice labs. And then she's also been practicing meditation intensively in the Zen tradition for the past 9 years and teaches others in that practice and art. And then finally, she lives with her wonderful husband, Rob, and her 2 young sons in Boulder, Colorado. So I want to welcome you, Brooke. I love this tree behind you. We've had so many chats with that tree behind you, and I always feel it's just like this creative rush coming out of your living room there.
Yeah, I love it too. And sometimes if I sit right here, it looks like it's coming out of my head.
Yeah.
It's cool, but it's a little distracting. So just sitting under its boughs right now.
This is very nice for late summer chat. Yeah. So I'd like to dive right in really to what your experience was of, having had that seed of wanting to create a course writing for mamas, mm-hmm. and then offering it, and then having that initial experience and really feeling what it did for mothers as we came together last spring. And I'd be happy to share some of my experiences, because I was both a program manager but also a very inspired participant.
Awesome. Yeah, I would love to share, and I am honestly still just very surprised by how incredibly nourishing it was for me, because I got the inspiration to create the course when I was, when my first son was a baby, and I was getting up early to write and thinking I was crazy, because I was so tired from taking care of him and from not getting, that much sleep, but feeling like this call to write, to capture, to keep myself well and inspired by expressing, the full breadth of what it is to become a mama, and the really deep, wild, subtle changes that were happening in my own identity. I really needed the output of writing, both just kind of journaling and then also creating poems. I needed that for my own wellness. And then I also felt this like really clear, strong call to write my book that you mentioned. And it was just the most like unplanned thing, and yeah, seemingly insane to be trying to write a book while also having a baby. But what I found was that it actually, even if I was tired from getting up to write, I was inspired, and I felt recharged from the sense of connection and belonging that I found in the early hours of the morning, connecting to like really deep parts of myself and connecting to spirit or God or mystery or something much bigger and you know, with infinite resource. I felt plugged into something that was really profoundly resourcing me, at a time when I felt undone from giving birth and rearranged from this new core and lifelong role of mama. So I started to notice like how profound this was to actually have a really committed creative practice while negotiating motherhood. And then it dawned on me that I really, whatever I was receiving from following my intuition about this, that I really wanted to share it with other mamas. Cause I was like, wow, this is this is a little key. I feel like I've found something, or something's been given to me, and I'm working hard, and I'm efforting to answer an internal call. And yet I'm being given like 10 times the amount that I'm giving. So I wanted to share that that's possible, and that it can really add to a sense of heartfulness and connection. So it was, you know, the course was just this intuitive thing, which I came to you because I had seen you give a talk at a conference, and I thought that you were so incredibly inspiring and beautiful. And I had taken your course. And so I just said like, hey, do you think that there's a market for this? Will mothers actually want to sign up for one more thing and add one more thing to what they're already juggling? And you were like, I think so. I think so. I think if we package it in a way that it feels supportive rather than one more thing to do, that we could find the mamas who want to reconnect to their creativity. So it was just kind of an experiment. And then when we actually launched it and started, once we entered the river and we were really going, I could not believe how much energy and beauty and soul and realness and strength and like ferocity came out of the mothers. I mean, we ended up with over 40 from different countries around the world, and I was blown away. I mean, I was excited and I was hoping it would be successful, but then what I received back, like I just ended up in tears, like being very moved every week at the end of our community calls. And I I remember saying to you, I feel like I come with a plan to facilitate these calls, and then I feel like I don't have to do much at all. Mm-hmm. Like I just need to say hello, welcome, this is what we're going to do. And then women start connecting with each other and sharing their, whatever they've written, whether it's a short, tiny little poem or a super unedited middle of the night download, or, you know, a more crafted thing. We got all kinds of things, but every single one, I feel like I would cry, you know, or at least sigh in like resonance and recognition. And that was so powerful, astonishing, really. Like I'm really excited to see what this round will bring. And I'm really excited to like, you know, taste and be nourished by these amazing moms who, it really felt like we just had to, you use this metaphor, we just had to offer the possibility of turning on the creative faucet, and then it was just flowing so naturally for
it was remarkable. Oh, we're getting an echo here. Are you getting the echo too? Okay, well, let's hope it's not happening in the recording. Um, but it was remarkable how it literally felt like a river that had been dammed was undammed, and it was more like a rushing river of creativity. I mean, I think both you and I had a sense from our own journeys that there is so much to say about the mothering experience, and the really profound, sometimes just funny, and sometimes deeply, kind of earth shattering moments we experience as mothers that are very often just held in those private spaces of bedroom, living room, playing with dolls and Legos in the park. Like, there are these very quiet, intimate moments, and we know how much truth is held, and how much beauty, and how much just human decency is held in those moments that is worth sharing, and also struggle and ache and loneliness. Just there's so much of life in its fullness, not just life sort of in the mothering slice, but just life held in these moments of being mother and becoming mother through the whole arc. Because I stepped into the course now with a teenage daughter, and I can feel, and I was just having tea with a girlfriend whose kids are now adults, and you can really feel the mothering just really does not end, and the themes that stay alive and churn through us and feel like they're looking for expression just keep rumbling on. So it literally did feel like a river was unleashed, and I think you and I were blown away, and I think the other mama writers too. And I will say, while you reflect back that you felt like you didn't have to do much, you held an extraordinary container, because there's something that I experienced in you, which was just your, and I don't, maybe you've worked hard for this, but it certainly feels very natural. Just you have a wonderful ease of holding many, many facets and dimensions of this life of being human and being mother, and being writer. So, the fact that you could show up and just actually be real, whether you had hardly slept the night before because your little guy was sick, and you still showed up and you shared that. I feel like how you showed up gave so much permission to mothers to remember together that we really don't need to show up polished to show up, that this course is actually about coming together as much as we want, because you can also take the course very much on your own, but that those who chose to come together in the live group calls, there was just a degree of realness and community, like literally coming together across the distance in these Zoom calls, that I thought was really extraordinary. And it felt like, next to unleashing this creative flow, again, like whether it was just a line, or even if it was just a mother taking some time to herself once a day, doing nothing, or writing a lot. So next to that, it was this sense of not being alone, I think, that was just really huge.
Yeah, I remember at a certain point, maybe about halfway through the 6-week course, there was a glitch, which we won't repeat, which was that, like, there was a time change. So then some of the European mamas missed the call because we forgot to let them know that we'd had a time change here in the States. And I just remember, well, two things really moving me. One, along the lines of what you were just saying, is just that I always wanted to take screenshots of the Zoom calls, because like some mothers were able to be there just themselves with their laptop or whatever and their coffee. And then some mamas had their babies on them going for a walk and like holding their phone and bouncing around. And then some mamas were literally at the park chasing their toddler around, but still, like, you could see that they were trying to participate as much as possible live. And then, like, we'd have some mamas in other time zones that were like at the end of the day. And, so it's just so moving to me to see women in different parts of the day participating as much as they could while mothering. And, we don't get to do that in all of our activities, we don't get to bring our mothering in. So that really moved me, how it was, this course is about nourishing the mamas through their own creativity and how that connects them to the universe and to their soul, and you know, to whatever it does connect them to, really. I mean, writing can be so transcendent and also so ordinary, and it can be therapeutic, and it can connect us to our ancestors, and just all the ways that writing can nourish. That's what this is for the mamas. But then to also see them like doing their mothering while they were like participating and getting nourished, it was beautiful to me.
Yeah.
So that struck me. And then also the European mamas who missed the call that day, unfortunately, one of them was, they were so sad to miss the call. And it was the first time I realized that like what we were offering really mattered. I mean, I knew that, but like it really hit me. Oh, this is actually providing that community we're talking about. And yes, it's nice to watch the recording later of the call, but for some people to be on the call live and be able to have the back and forth and the energetic exchange makes a huge difference, because mothering can be incredibly lonely and incredibly heavy, as well as light, and as well as, you know, we're connected to our children, but to have the woman to woman, mama to mama contact is so vital.
Yeah, and to have that with your beautiful guidance, right? Like week by week, you gave us these pairs of impulses, really, or realms to explore that I felt just gave such fertile ground for women then to work with. I wonder if you could just run us through at least some of those.
Yeah, and it's funny because I've been noticing myself working with these. So they're provided sequentially through the 6 weeks, but they're not linear by any means, and they all flow into and out of each other. So they can sort of be carried in this kind of looping spiral forward from the course. But week 1 is all about start here, wholehearted. So it's about finding coherence in the here and now, bringing all parts of ourselves into alignment, body, mind, breath, and then also, you know, the stuff that we're proud of that we want to show, and the stuff that is a little messier that we might want to hide, just letting everything come right here, letting it all be here, feeling the range of whatever's here. And then anchoring all of that in the space of the heart. So week 1 is just really arrive and land in the space of the heart. And also this acknowledgement that, of course, the space of the heart is a personal thing, deeply personal. And it paradoxically has this capacity for us to access interconnection and interdependence, and a transpersonal, always already connected place. So we kind of land with all of our stuff, and then we find our heart, and then we find each other, and we find this heart of motherhood, which we all belong to and belong in, and there's a lot of poetry always in the heart of motherhood. There's you know, whether it's light or dark or profound or ordinary, there's always material to write from. So that's week 1. And then week 2 is a really critical leveraging, at least for me in my history with writing. This is like the critical piece where I learned to practice shifting my writing from this kind of ego place of like, I want to make something that makes me look cool, to I want to write as a way of filling myself up and giving myself away. And so the practice to do that is just listening, listening and voicing. So before we kind of continue doing and, okay, now I'm going to sit down and write stuff, it's like to actually learn how to pause and turn on our receptivity. And so even if someone takes the course and they never write a thing, if someone just begins the practice of daily sitting down and listening to my own being and listening to reality and listening to my life and just having that space to receive and hear a little bit more, and then maybe like a sentence comes out of that, but really that gesture of being able to hear ourselves and receive our own selves. And then that's where some really kind of more true stuff can get written.
Yeah, I wanted to just insert there that there were a couple of weeks where I didn't write, partly because I was holding the container with you for the course, but it just brought to mind that the themes, those impulses you give, they're life impulses. You know, it was very valuable for me just to hold them in my heart and mind as I lived through that week without even taking pen to paper.
Yeah. And I love that. Like yes, I want this course to you know, be just as much for the being aspect of us as the doing. Like we don't have to produce a bunch of writing. It can just simply nourish the writer within, the one who listens. And then maybe 6 months from now, because that has been nourished, then it's ready to start voicing. But so listen, week 2 is listening and voicing. Week 1 is start here wholehearted. Week 2 is listening and voicing. And then week 3 is privacy and company. And it kind of teases apart these two core human needs for like solitude and really, you know, having the space to go internal and discover self-knowledge and who am I and what do I want to say, and then bringing that out and finding connection and community and having company in the process. So we kind of start to weave back and forth between privacy and company, or solitude and community. And for me, that being mindful about that, the proportion of those things, especially while I'm mothering, makes a big difference, because I will often just like bulldoze over my need for solitude, thinking that I should always be in communion. But if I pay attention to the doses I give of solitude and community, then I'm just better to be around and happier. So the writing practices, that's a really, you know, it's just a really, it gives some structure for how to go in. There's certain writing prompts and questions, and they're just little breadcrumbs to go inward. So privacy and company is week 3. Week 4 is playing and working. And so it's like some different philosophical orientations that I've learned over the years from my dance studies and my performance studies around what is play. And then, of course, as mothers, we all are studying play all the time in our children. But they're really helpful perspectives on like how to explore beyond our like well-groomed habits of identity and how we do life, like the rules we have, how to like healthfully soften and suspend the rules and identities to play and explore and experiment in our writing, and then how we can bring that spirit of exploration and vitality to our work, so that the discipline of work has that same kind of vitality. And then week 5 was gonna be one thing, and then I I changed it in the very last minute, because the thing that was coming up for a lot of women and myself at this point in the course was the polarity between creativity and destruction. And a lot of people were mentioning themes of like parts of themselves dying in the process of giving birth to the mother within them, or old ways of being that they could no longer live out. And so we picked that up. We picked up that polarity of, I called it creating and dismantling. but we played with the whole spectrum of like in creation, either before we create or as we create or after, things get dissolved or dismantled or destroyed, because that's just the nature of form.
Even down to the editing process, right? You're saying no
Exactly.
to a lot of things so that something is then the yes.
Yes, exactly. So we looked at our own identity. We looked at our kind of the way we relate with other people and our life as mamas, and then also our relationship with our work and how we edit our work, and like how can we get kind of more skillful and compassionate with like what we say no to, so we can have a more full yes. And then the last week is called Intimacy with All Things, and it's just how to move forward in life and mothering and creative work, with an open heart and intimacy with all of it.
Beautiful. Thank you, Brooke.
Yeah.
Welcome. Yeah, it really felt like a journey, and I'm so thrilled to be going on that journey again, because it feels like one of those journeys that you can keep going through. And yeah, I'm so curious to see what arises this time, because while I think a lot will be similar, and that is beautiful, because I think both of us were taken by surprise, but in such a glorious way of how incredibly rich the experience was. Who ends up coming together will create a new path, right? A new we. And it was truly exquisite to read some of the writings of the participants, and they continue to date, right? There's a Facebook group that we start with each course that then stays open, forever, as much as forever is on Facebook, and to keep reading these poems or little snippets or longer blog posts that mothers are writing. I think there's something there's the coming together, there's the unleashing that creative self that might have gone a little dormant, maybe in early childhood or beyond. But then there's also that element of seeing one another. I would read a poem of a mama who is, say, mothering a 1.5-year-old, and for one thing, I would remember there's so much in us that we've already experienced, and so there's the seeing, witnessing one another, and then remembering together little things like what it means when a first tooth comes through, or remembering that constant dynamic between surrendering to and giving all we have to this endeavor, and being asked to release and let go, which happens when our child goes to kindergarten on the first day, but also literally never stops until they find their own homes out in the big wide world.
Yeah, I was thinking before this call that like 2 days ago I was putting my shoes on, and I took a minute and I checked and I read a poem that a mama had just posted from last spring's course. And then I found tears in my eyes, and just like that soft, tenderized feeling of having, because it's a different part of us that gets revealed in our writing, and it's pretty intimate. And so then to just like get to receive that in the middle of an ordinary day, it's really like medicine.
Yeah, and remember that our experience is unique, and yet there is this underlying commonality. But then it gets voiced through a particular voice. So you get this delicious mix between the unique, distinct flavor of each one of our human voices. And then there's that sameness, right? Which is also so deeply comforting.
Yes.
I think incredibly necessary. I'm tempted to say especially now, but I would imagine this has been through all of humankind, is we literally live through and from also that sense of togetherness and not being alone.
I'm having a memory too of a mama, one of the first ones who was brave enough to read her own work out loud on one of the Zoom calls, and she had a 6-month-old or something. I asked if anyone was willing, and she offered, and then it got quiet, and then she read her poem, and everybody. I had tears just dripping down because of the sameness and the recognition of like how sacred and how scary those early months are. And the way she put it into words was so incredibly beautiful. And yeah, so that sameness was ringing, but then also I could feel that I wasn't there anymore. And that was huge for me. I think that was also why I had tears. My boys are not babies anymore. And so to hear it made me recognize my difference from her as well, which carried its own relief and grief. And so it's a really helpful way to feel the feelings, all the feelings that are.
Yeah, so true. So true. I'm wondering, as we bring our chat to a close, if you wouldn't mind reading us one of your poems.
Of course,
yeah,
I would.
That would be wonderful.
Uh-oh. Okay, so this is, I have one that's a bit longer and I call it more of a prose poem. It's a bit of a story. It's definitely narrative, but it's about, it's kind of, this is a theme that I'm experiencing a lot these days with my boys. Right now they're 5 and 2, but I wrote this last summer when we went on a family vacation to Spain. I'm laughing because I thought we were going to have this like romantic, like relaxing family time for a week on the beach. And then my husband had to work for parts of it and I didn't know anyone there. So there was no support with the kids. And it just ended up, I had this confrontation of how vacation doesn't mean the same thing with little kids. And it was awesome, but I wrote this while I was there and it helped me kind of make sense of what I was experiencing. And it's called The Weight of Them. The Weight of Them. They're getting heavier, my boys, so my arms are getting more sore than stronger. What is the word for vacation when it includes the work of tending all their needs? While they played in the sand and the sun served up its final portions of the day, Rob said, "Can you believe their existence is entrusted to us?" I am genuinely wondering how to relax into that fact. London is 4 and Orion 10 months. We crossed the Atlantic last Monday, and I cried getting the car rental. I did keep my shit together in the caves of Campinet yesterday, where I took the boys while Rob was working, and the tight, dim, damp, steep, slippery, low-ceilinged labyrinth awoke an abundance of energy in London, nap-needing cries and flailing from Orion, dagger glances from the Latvian tourist group obviously not impressed with my brood, and low blood sugar, overheating, claustrophobic panic in me. I could go on. It's both a shit show and a dream here on vacation with the McNamaras. But what I really want to say is this. When Rob was driving us home after dinner last night, and London, with his chocolate ice cream cheeks, fell asleep leaning on my shoulder in the back seat, and then Orion drifted off nursing on my lap, I could feel the weight of them right then, setting me down on earth, telling my body, this is where you reside. They were holding me downward with their full release, opposite how I hold them. And it happened again this morning, sitting on the porch, when London climbed up on my lap, my body his lounge chair, and we listened to the tractors and the birds. With all my spinning ambition pinned again by his 37 pounds, I found my placefulness right here in Campinet. And as I rooted, I filled from the ground up with a gladness that liquefied and trickled down my cheeks, dampening his tumble of curls resting on my chest. And also, mostly, I could feel that something like an unseen stream, held the whole pile of us in our various movements of the morning and carried us forward where the boys' bodies and their lives get only bigger, only heavier, and certainly both darker and brighter, and press me only more perfectly into a strength I have yet to embody.
Thank you, Brooke.
Welcome.
I was experiencing so much remembering and also very present time, because I think the themes you touch on while your boys are little, they keep running through the stream of time for when your boys will be teenagers, or in this case, my daughter is. So it's really a stream through time. And as I was listening, I could feel in me, and I think this is partly why I so love what you're offering, and I'm in such grateful support of it, is it feels to me that these voices of what is experienced through mothering, like actually voicing that, is itself, it feels like there's something, I mean, it's wonderful for the self, but it feels like I can feel the activist, radical nature of it too.
Mm-hmm.
And literally that it rebalances something in the world, that there are so many other voices saying important things and not such important things. There's a real void there, and there's something about naming, articulating, bringing into word and voice and speaking that which happens in this particular realm of life that I actually think is relevant for all of us, not just for mothers of children. It's literally, it's relevant. Like, so I think, yeah, that really is alive for me as I am listening to something. Like, I can feel both your very personal journey experience. I can feel where I can share that with you, where there's a mutuality, but the mutuality literally goes beyond just you and me. And it unfolds the whole. So I love that. I think it's it's deeply relevant, and I really want to encourage anyone who's listening, to maybe consider stepping into this course, both for self, but then also for that we're actually doing this not just on behalf of ourselves, but also on behalf of the much greater whole.
Yeah, I really also hold that activist perspective, not like just in the sense of that there's beauty that if revealed can nourish.
Yeah.
And that's and can be appreciated. Beauty and truth of what's happening at home, and in these mother-child relationships. Yeah.
Wonderful. Would you like to say anything to send us off? Do you feel complete?
There's just a tiny little piece, which is that the course is for mothers, but sometimes I'll say it's for mamas and mothering beings, and that's an open term. And so last time we had someone she doesn't have a literal child, but she wanted to take the course and like relate with her inner child. And then we have someone this time who is in a phase where she's deeply longing to become a mother. And so she's going to take the course from that perspective of like writing herself toward the heart of motherhood. And I would just say, if you don't have kids, but if you're an aunt or a grandma, or you know, if you're just a person who considers themselves participating in mothering and you are drawn to the course, reach out to us.
Mhm.
We're open to like what that means and um, who can come.
Mhm.
We're open.
Yeah, absolutely. I think of mothering as keeper of the hearth.
Mm-hmm.
And so that hearth can mean different things to different people. And yeah, there's so much to be shared from any hearth that is being mothered.
Yeah.
And heart that is mothering. Yeah. Wonderful. Well, thank you, Brooke. I can't wait actually to start next Monday,
Yeah.
and look forward to seeing who joins us. And I'm already thrilled to see who has signed up. So if any of you listening do consider, just know you're really welcome, and we'd love to share this with you.
Awesome. Yeah. Thank you for having me. Yeah.